everyone, I'm Jill. Welcome to Jill in Beauty Therapy, and today is Wig Wednesday. So Wig Wednesdays, it's all about helper hair, and you may be just starting, you may be a seasoned helper hair wearer, or you may be contemplating possibly becoming a helper hair wearer. So we might have wig chats, I might have styling tips, I might answer questions that are really common that come my way often, and that is what we're doing today actually. I often get asked this question, and it comes from those that are contemplating becoming helper hair wearers, whether it's wigs or toppers, but I feel like it's more commonly one that comes from those that are just starting their wig journey. So they may have even 3 or 4 wigs sitting at home, but they are too afraid to start wearing them. They have perhaps a workplace, they see these people every day, and they're very, very anxious about how to start their wig journey. So that is what we're going to cover today. So most of you that find yourself in this predicament may be actually you've done your research, you figured out what you want to do, you even maybe have ordered some pieces, whether toppers, wigs, what have you, and they're sitting there and you've tried them on at home, you figured out how to secure them, and you feel pretty dang good about the whole thing. But you haven't been out in the real world yet with your helper hair. This is such a personal experience, and every one of you, you have all different kinds of personalities. So it really is hard for me to sort of give you advice on this because we're all different. We're different on how we tackle this because we're just different people. We all have different comfort zones and so on. So I'm first going to share with you what I did and what worked for me. And then I'll give you a couple suggestions if your journey isn't going to take you along that same sort of road that I went on regarding this. So let's begin. So with me, I was watching one of my favorite YouTubers' beauty channel on YouTube, and out of the blue, I realized I was watching her give a wig review. I was flabbergasted at how this wig looked so real. I was blown away. I became giddy. I became so excited. I just knew I had to do this because I was struggling with my own hair. It had thinned out tremendously, even more than what I expected at the age I was, because genetic hair loss definitely is part of my genes in my family. Both my mom and dad, dealt with the thinning hair as they aged. So I knew that was going to be something that I most likely am going to be dealing with, and sure enough, I am also a hairdresser, a cosmetologist. I've been in the beauty industry since like 1983 of one way or another, and I enjoy styling hair. It's just a big passion of mine. I like styling other people's hair, and I really like styling my own hair. I grew up in the 80s, for God's sake. I have big hair was a thing, and I loved it. Until it became very clear to me that styling my own hair has really gone out the window. It had gotten so thin, so cotton candy-like, that really it was becoming a struggle. And I love makeup. I love getting my face on. I just love that whole thing. And the final piece of, sort of styling the hair just wasn't there anymore. So while I wasn't going down this depression or anything because of it, it was just something that I didn't realize was this big hole in my life until I started my wig journey. So when I saw this, it was Elizabeth. The wig was by John Renault, Elizabeth. And Shaded Praline was, I believe, the color that was being shown. And I was blown away, like I said. So I believe I let it percolate for a little bit. And I would watch that every day for probably under a week. And I decided, without knowing anything about helper hair, I did zero research. I knew nothing. I ordered it. I didn't even realize that you can wait for those 30% off sales I didn't know that was a thing either. So I just ordered it right full price. And yes, it was a big purchase for me and our budget, but I did it. And so really that excitement is what got me through what so many people struggle with, which is that first initial, how do I go out in the world? I was so excited about this. It gives me goosebumps to this day. I was so excited that I just didn't I just did it. I just didn't care. I remember I played a trick on my kids, and once I got that wig, you can bet I was super excited. And yes, I put it on and thought, oh my God, this looks wiggy. But then I'm like, no, Jill, I'm gonna make this work. And the key was to keep it on, and I just kept playing with it. And then I got to figure out how in the heck I'm gonna skewer this thing on my head. But before all of that, I got the wig. It was the very first day I had it. I was in my bathroom and having a blast. Oh my gosh. So excited. So excited. I took pictures. I took pictures from the back. I took pictures on my phone, in the front, a couple different poses, and I sent them to my kids saying, oh my gosh, look, I just cut my hair. I decided to color it too, and I love it. And they're like, oh my God, Mom, it looks so good. And they just were just amazed at how great my hair looked. And so I got all that feedback back. Well, my son lived with us, and so he came home and he came back to the bathroom. And I said, I was turning around and kind of playing with it. I said, doesn't it look nice? And he's like, yeah, gosh, it does. It looks really good. And I think he was going to tell me something. Anyway, I said, well, it's a wig. Eventually, I said, it's a wig. And he's like, he was completely mortified, I think. Once he realized it was a wig, now he doesn't care. I mean, these are just a part of my life. But I think he was mortified. And, well, he was. And I told him, and I said, and I'm going to wear this to Hannah's wedding. And then he said, oh my God, Mom. I did, by the way, wear it to her wedding. So that's really it. And then as for the rest of the world, because at the time I was working, I'm an esthetician as well. So I didn't have the circumstance where maybe a lot of you do, where you work with people. I just have clients that I see all the time. And it's my own business. I leased my space, all of that. So I didn't have necessarily other people other than people that also worked in the same building, kind of say hi and whatnot. And so I just can't, my approach to the whole thing really was, it's so much easier for me to just be excited. Excitement is contagious. And if you see someone every day, I would announce it personally. And how I announced it to the circle of people that my life revolves around at the time is, Facebook back then, because this was like 2017, was a bigger deal than it is now. And so I just announced it. I took a picture, just a real casual picture of me on my chair, and I just announced it, that I am so over dealing with this thin hair, and that I have found wigs, and I am so excited. I'm never going back. And then, friends and stuff was like, oh my God, it looks so great. And so those people knew. And then as for my clients at work, they'd come in, and if they said something, if they were my regulars, they'd be like, oh my God, I love your haircut. And I would tell them it's a wig. I have to tell them, because many of those people I saw every single month. And the fun for me with being a wig wearer is changing up lengths, go short, go long. Pretty much I stay in the blonde arena, because that was a fantasy of mine. I always wanted blonde hair, and my hair would never lift to the color that I really wanted. And here are these gorgeous blondes, just these perfect blondes out there, all these different brands. That alone was exciting. It's like, I can be that blonde I've always wanted to be. And so fun. And that is what made me just be okay with it. Now, to this day, I have insecure days. I'm not going to lie. There are days when I do have insecure days. I feel like, I don't know. I hate when I have those days. Sorry about my dogs. But I do have them. And I don't know why. They just come out of the blue, and I do feel a little bit insecure those days with my helper hair. And I feel, oh my God, I feel like everybody's looking at me. Nobody is. But just want you to know that I do still have those days. I'm not this perfect, I don't care attitude day in and day out. No, I still have some insecure days. Probably actually more so nowadays than I did back then in the beginning of my helper hair journey. I wore wigs from the time I got ready in the morning until the time I went to bed, 11 or so o'clock at night. That wig was on my head. I'm really sorry. That's my story. The excitement just bubbled over, and that's how I dealt with it. So as for my suggestions for you, that is to me the least stressful way to go about the start and throughout your journey, really, is to just let people know. I feel like it just takes off this anxiety just sort of right away. While you may be anxious leading up to letting them know, I feel like once they know, and you don't have to go into work, every day and think, oh gosh, are they going to know? You're going to be very reluctant to try different styles, and maybe that's not what you're excited about, but there are so many wonderful styles out there. Excuse me, that I feel like, wow, what a shame, to sort of like box yourself in. You may be like me and you want to stick to a certain color range, but there are plenty of people that experiment with that too and have a blast being a blonde one day, being a redhead the next day, brunette. I mean, that would be a blast. That would be equally fun, to just sort of play with color. But it really depends on what makes you comfortable. I definitely recommend being excited. You got to have confidence when you wear your wigs or your helper hair in general. You can fake it until you make it, but you need to own it. And that alone is going to get you far. You just have to own it and have confidence, because if you go around kind of, oh my God, somebody's gonna see, you're basically going to draw attention to yourself for one thing, but that's no way to go, about your journey, because this is a freeing experience. It should be a freeing experience. It should be fun. It should be something that really helps with the anxiety that you may have surrounding your thinning hair, for whatever that reason may be. This is your stress reliever, knowing there are these helper hair options out there for you. So this is to bring you joy and to just let all of that stress roll off your back, because you have these great options. So if being a helper hair wearer brings you even more anxiety, and if you allow that to happen, then is the trade-off worth it, really? Because this is supposed to eliminate that. I want it to eliminate that anyway from your life. If you are stressing about your thinning hair and you're excited about these options you're seeing, I want that to bubble over and just really lead you on your way in your helper hair journey. And that is going to be the motor, and the wind that pushes you through it is the excitement and joy that you feel, because believe me, that is contagious. And that is something that is a wonderful thing all in and of itself, really. If that is just not something you can really wrap your mind around, then there is nothing wrong with finding a style that's close to what your hair is now, finding a color that is very similar. And there are also similar styles that are maybe just a little different, but you can still get away with interchanging them. That is definitely, if that makes you feel just automatically like, yes, that's how I can see myself getting, out there in the world, as just something very similar to what I'm wearing now. And just not having to tell people if you don't want to. That is for sure an option as well. I'm just sharing kind of how I did it and how it made me feel. and how it would make me feel if I didn't tell people. But that's just me. You need to find a way that makes you feel like you can get through that. And maybe eventually, once you're wearing them for a while out there, eventually maybe you will feel more secure about telling people and then coming in with a different color altogether and different style. But they know. And as for your family, your husband, your kids, whatever, they, in my opinion, they're just going to have to get on board. And if they don't want to, who cares? And that goes for your husband as well. I know that it's none of my business to go there, but that's just the kind of woman I am. And so really my excitement again overshadowed anybody else's opinion. I was lucky in that my husband was on board. He thought it was fun. He didn't care. And he even, would have his, sort of favorites. He never really said much, really. But every now and then, he would say, oh, I really like that one. So he knew he had no options. So either he's going to pretend that he's on board. I don't know. But honestly, I just didn't care. So I know that there may be others out there that do care about what their husbands think about these things. And if he gives you the stink eye, I suppose it's up to you what you want to do with that. I want to lift you up and say, if this brought you joy and if you were excited, please continue on that journey and just do it, because it is important that you feel joy and that you no longer stress over this thinning hair situation. And if that wig made you feel great, then what a shame it would be if you just stopped that whole journey for yourself because your husband didn't like it, or your kids, or whatever. Again, I just think if they truly love you, they're going to see how happy this makes you feel. And how can they, it breaks my heart when I do hear stories about women who have that exact experience, whether it's from their kids or their, significant other, and it just blows the wind out of their sails, and it breaks my heart. It really tears me up. I just think that's awful. And I just want to set them down and say, you're going to continue to wear these, because who cares? Who cares, But that's, again, that is, but again, I am not you, obviously, and I can't tell you how to go about this journey that you're thinking about going on, or that you have already started and you just haven't had the guts to get out there. So again, I'm going to go back and summarize. I suggest just to let everybody know, just let them know how excited you are and that you can't wait to just kind of play with all these different kinds of styles, and that you plan on having a lot of fun with it. And just going to work looking different all the time. I think it's fun. My clients had a blast. I had several clients tell me that they were looking forward to seeing me to see what style I was wearing that day. And were bowled over to find out, the first time I told them that it was a wig. So, yeah. Now, for those of you that aren't necessarily stressing too much about all of that, but you're having a hard time just getting out the door. Now, I have made sort of a boot camp 101 video back in the day about just this. And I have had so much feedback from that and people telling me how great it worked. So I'm just going to summarize that by saying this is what I did, just to kind of get out the door. Is my mailbox at that time in that house, I would have to just simply kind of cross the street and walk down a little bit, and there was my mailbox. That was my first thing I did. So once I got myself looking good and everything, that's what I did, is I just went out the door and checked the mail. And what do you know? I decided to do that, and I went out the door, and here comes a truck. And, we lived on just it wasn't a regular road. It was, people went pretty slow. And I'm thinking, oh my God, he's looking at me. He can tell I'm wearing a wig. No, but that's what my brain did. So, I went and I got the mail and I came back in the house. So that was my first step. The second thing that I did is I decided I'm going to go in the car and drive through a drive-through. So I did. I remember it was Burger King. And that way I actually had to see somebody, with my wig on. And that's what I did. So I did errands that I didn't have to get out of the car. The third thing that I did is I finally decided to go grocery shopping. That means I didn't want to do a ton of grocery shopping. I just wanted to get a few things. That means I have to get out, walk into the store, and actually do some grocery shopping and stand in the checkout line while I'm getting checked out, So it's like all of that. I did that. Lo and behold, no weird looks. Out the door I went, and I went home. It's just about those little things. So you then will build confidence each time, and that's a good thing. But really, the very first step is getting across the threshold of that door. And yes, while I was super excited and all of my friends and, my family, for me, it was actually harder to deal with strangers than it was the people who knew me and my clients and all of that, my kids and my friends. That to me was the easy part. It was strangers that I had to sort of start working on feeling the confidence to get out there, and just do things in the world with, I don't know exactly why you would think it would be reverse, but for me, it wasn't. Part of getting yourself out in the big bad world is it's really about a series of events that have to occur before you have the confidence to walk out that door. The first one is you got to secure your wig on or your hairpiece, and you have to feel that it's very secure. And until you do that, you're probably going to be very anxious about going out there because you're going to be afraid that something's going to happen, which has happened to me, by the way, and it wasn't the end of the world. And I never saw those people again. But you want to avoid that, right? So you got to secure that wig first. And in subsequent upcoming Wig Wednesdays, I will talk about all these different things in just one video. So we'll talk about the different ways you can secure your wig. And then a different Wednesday, we'll talk about how you can make your wig look natural. And then a different one, we'll talk about different ways you can style your wig so it looks and feels like you. Sorry, that is Loki having his reverse sneezing. He's okay. So yes, it's got to feel secure. And there are little tricks that you can do to make it look very natural, to have that hairline look really snatched. And then if a wig is just, you're not feeling it that day, or you feel like it's particularly wiggy looking on you, there are really simple things you can do to style it, to put a little something in it, no matter what your age is, to where it's like, okay, this feels like me. I feel okay now. I can go out the door. So all of those things just have to line up, and then out the door you are. And the more you do it, the better and easier it will become. I'm just going to hang this out here real quick. I think the best thing is to not take this wig journey too awful seriously. And what do I mean by that? I mean, you're wearing a wig. Who cares? Who cares? Don't be so uptight about it. I mean, I absolutely go through the lengths to make my wig look as natural as I can. But if something is a little, like, I don't know, just don't get too uptight about it. So what if it looks a little wiggy that day, or you go out and you didn't put your root powder on and you feel like maybe it's looking a little like a wig that day in that hairline. It's okay. Who cares? You wear wigs. Doesn't matter. You have to sort of start thinking like that, because then it will make you feel less anxious that every single thing has to be just right, because I was like that in the beginning. I really was. And I have loosened up quite a bit. I still go through my steps and how to make it, how to make me feel like this is my hair and do those things. Absolutely. But it helps with just feeling a little less insecure when you're out there, especially on the days when you may be feeling a little more insecure than even normal. It's like, okay, I wear a wig. Who cares? Who cares? That helps. That really, really does. All right, I am going to sign off for this one. I always hope that you find any of my videos helpful to you in some way or other, and I certainly hope that if you're struggling with this particular issue, that you find this inspiring and that it gives you that little extra something to convince yourself that you can do this. Okay, I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.